When you look around through lists of game releases in the past 10 years, especially in the indie games landscape, you can find genre combinations that work surprisingly well. For example, rhythm shooters like Metal Hellsinger. And today's game falls into the same weird genre mix category, because Ravenous Devils combines store management with horror. You will take over the role of the married couple Percival and Hildred that just came into a new town to open their business, with Percival using his skills to open a tailor shop and Hildred managing a restaurant. So the gameplay is divided into two parts for each of the two, that you will have to manage simultaneously, which can get a bit tricky at first but was never too overwhelming. As Percival, you will have to tailor clothes to sell in your shop and take the measurements of your customers. The horror part of the game begins when he, with the help of his scissors, turns his clients into product for the family business. To doing the deed, you will have to take the clothes of your customers to use at the tailor shop and throw the patrons down a shaft into the basement, and after cleaning the floor, the cycle can continue. Later in the game, you will also gain access to the greenhouse on the upper floor. Here you can turn product into fertilizer for crops or food for birds to get eggs and vegetables for Hildred's kitchen. Hildred, on the other hand, will turn her husband's freshly harvested product into steaks, sausages or ground meat. Those can either be cooked by themselves, combined with ingredients like the other meats, flour, eggs or Percival's vegetables to create new dishes. Later on, you can also unlock a cat that will hunt rats for you that can then be grilled and are the only dish that doesn't include the mystery meats. In the restaurant, you can then present the dishes you prepared for the customers to buy directly at the counter. Later on, you can build tables so groups of customers can come in and order specific dishes, which is where things become somewhat tricky at some point. But you can also hire a server so that Hildred can focus on the kitchen. On top of that, almost everything can be upgraded, like the speed for producing meats, cooking or producing crops. Further, you get the option to buy additional mannequins for the clothes or new tables for the restaurant. And this is about everything Bad Vices Games gave us to do in their game. In terms of design, the Italian-based studio gives us exactly one scenery, the house, which in return is full of details. Underlined is all of this by a very basic but fitting instrumental soundtrack composed by Federico Manupiella. Now before we come to the story section, I want to give you the chance to skip to the timestamp shown on the screen right now. The game begins with the couple arriving in a new town where they acquired their new home that was previously owned by a known barber. They decide to open a murderous business where the husband, Percival, is responsible for doing the deed and retailoring the clothes, and the wife, Hildred, will cook the remains so nothing goes to waste. Shortly after their shops went into business, they receive a letter that reveals someone knows their secret. But instead of being threatened by him, their admirer that calls himself Jay asks them to process handpicked targets. Jay's first desired target is called Mr. Elliot Carson, a young nobleman that visits our shop soon after and announces he will commission a suit. But before he comes back, a young woman named Lady Elswin visits our humble tailor shop who is in need of a new dress. Apparently, she knows about our secret too and seems to be seeking to become one of our products. But before we could really understand what she was trying to tell us, Hildred storms in and asks us to get downstairs. Anyway, when Elliot visits again the next day, Percival tries to get some information on Mr. J out of him, but when we get nothing new on our pen pal, Percival does the deed. After this, Jay takes some time to write us about his life and what led him to enjoy the more exotic cuisine he wants our help with. And after a while, he tells us about our second target, his old friend Gilbert Weston, this time especially asking us to be quick about it. When the very overweight man arrives, he asks Hildred to cook a cat he describes as useless for his dog's birthday. Hildred, funnily enough, feels uncomfortable with that request and declines, claiming the animal is sick. She offers to take care of the cat for him, which he happily agrees to, and now we have a cat. The following day, a young boy visits our restaurant, asking us if we have seen his parents. Hildred comforts him with some gin from the kitchen. The boy thanks her, introduces himself as Peter and leaves for the day. The next day, Lady Elswin visits again, but this time seeks the company of Hildred to ask her what she thinks comes after death. When Hildred tells her that she believes that there is nothing but a black void, the woman leaves unsatisfied. In the morning, we hear heavy steps climbing the stairs of Percival's shop. Looking outside, we see Mr. Weston having trouble breathing. He apparently suffers a heart attack from the efforts to get upstairs and falls back down. Our happy husband and wife act quick and bring their requested target inside to complete the second of Jay's tasks. A few days go by, until Peter visits us again, giving Hildred some handpicked flowers, as a thank you for listening to his troubles. He also entrusts her with a secret before heading out again. A man asked him to go fishing together later, but made him promise to not tell anyone. With another set of days going by, we get a letter from Jay, where he excuses himself for not contacting us sooner. He tells us the reason for being less talkative is the passing of his cousin, we know as Lady Elswin, who died of tuberculosis. His next letter doesn't take this long this time, and his next piece of written words introduces us to the third target, a wealthy woman named Yvonne LaRouche. But before we are blessed with meeting her for the first time, Peter visits us again, bringing a storybook with him this time, that he wants to sell due to him not being able to read anyway. Hildred offers to read the story to him, but the tale ends up scaring the boy and he leaves again. When he comes back, he asks Hildred to adopt him and take him off the streets. Hildred, who isn't ready to raise a child, declines, but because she sees herself in him, she gives him some money to buy a train ticket and leave town for a better chance at life, with our main character's probably first good deed in their lives. Our third target stumbles into Percival's tailor shop. She accuses him of terrible work and demands new clothes free of charge as compensation. Her general attitude has at least one good thing, as it makes Percival's job a little easier to do for him. With number 3 out of the way, Jay seems satisfied and asks us to start preparing the dishes and promises us our reward. On the day of their supposed first meeting, the two protagonists wonder why Jay even wants to meet them and prepare for possible traps and to take him out to cover their tracks. The dinner goes over successfully and Jay offers his reward. He wants the two to become his personal chefs in exchange for him making them untouchable. But because Hildred and Percival don't want to become anyone's servant, Percival makes his move, but apparently Jay has a gun. We hear some noise, including a gunshot, and the game ends right here. So we don't actually know what happened to anyone involved, so it is kind of open-ended, leaving room for a sequel. And despite its gruesome premise, I actually wouldn't mind the developers exploring a different setting. Anyway, first of all, welcome back to everyone skipping the story section, where the game isn't too deep in terms of mechanics, and as soon as the story was over and no new mechanics and upgrades were left to unlock, I put it aside. But for the few hours it took me to get there, I really enjoyed the time I had with the game, with the game's biggest strength being the little animations and story bits you had in between workdays. So if you're looking for a few hours of store management fun with an unusual setting and don't mind the missing long-term motivation, Ravenous Devils is an easy recommendation. So, if you watched until now, first of all, thank you for that. If you have the time, feel free to leave your opinion on the game in the comments. And if you liked what you saw, maybe consider liking and subscribing if you don't want to miss any future videos. And I hope to see you next time.